On April 6, 2026, 4 human beings were further from Earth than anyone in history. 252,756 miles, a record that had stood since Apollo 13 in 1970. They broke it and kept going. Then, at 1:56 p.m. Eastern, they disappeared. Not metaphorically. Their spacecraft crossed behind the moon. Every signal from Earth, cut. Every transmission from them, gone. For 40 minutes, the crew of Artemis II were the most isolated human beings in history. No contact, no signal, no way to reach them. What they experienced during those 40 minutes, NASA has described as profound and deeply moving. What they haven't described is what specifically happened. The full audio record from the blackout period has not been released. In this video, we're going through the Artemis II mission minute by minute, from launch on April 1st to splashdown on April 10th, with particular focus on those 40 minutes behind the moon. What we know from mission transcripts and post-mission interviews, what was said at the press briefing and what wasn't, and why the question of what happens during lunar blackouts has been relevant since 1969, and why it's still relevant now. Everything in this video is sourced from official mission records, NASA transcripts, and public statements from the crew and agency. To understand what Artemis II experienced, you need to understand what a communications blackout actually means. The far side of the moon has never faced Earth, not once in 4.5 billion years. The moon is tidally locked, its rotation perfectly synchronized with its orbit, which means no radio signal from Earth reaches it, no GPS, no satellite communication, nothing. When a spacecraft crosses the lunar limb, the edge of the moon, it enters a zone of complete communication isolation. More isolated than the International Space Station, more isolated than any submarine, more isolated than anywhere humans have ever been, except in previous lunar missions. The blackout lasts between 35 and 45 minutes depending on trajectory. For mission control, it is a practiced wait. For the crew inside the spacecraft, it is something else. On April 1st, 2026, 4 astronauts began the journey that would take them there. Here's how it happened, start to finish. April 1st, 2026, Kennedy Space Center, 6:24 p.m. Eastern. Commander Reid Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, mission specialists Christina Koch and Jeremy Hansen, the first humans to travel toward the moon since Apollo 17 in December 1972. 54 years. The Space Launch System, the most powerful rocket ever successfully flown, generated 8.8 million pounds of thrust at ignition. Within 8 minutes, the crew was in Earth orbit. Within hours, they were on a translunar trajectory. For 5 days, they lived inside the Orion capsule, a space smaller than a large SUV, on a journey of 239,000 miles. On April 3rd, Commander Wiseman photographed Earth from a distance no one had photographed it since the Apollo era. The image, Earth appearing upside down through the tilted spacecraft, was immediately published by NASA. They called it, "Hello, World." Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen, speaking from 200,000 miles. Make sure this record is not long-lived. A challenge, a dare, a statement of what space exploration is for. On April 6th, 5 days into the mission, Orion began its lunar flyby. As they approached, Wiseman radioed, "It is blowing my mind what you can see with the naked eye right now. Just unbelievable." The crew had spent years studying lunar geography, preparing for this moment. They photographed terrain no human had ever seen directly, the ancient crater-covered wilderness of the far side. Hansen described peaks so bright they appeared covered in snow. At 248,655 miles from Earth, they surpassed the record set by Apollo 13 in 1970, the farthest any human had ever been from Earth. Then they kept going, 252,756 miles, a new record. At that maximum distance, the crew proposed naming two fresh craters they'd observed during the flyby. Integrity, the name of their capsule. Carol, named for Commander Wiseman's wife, who died of cancer in 2020. Wiseman wept. All 4 crew members embraced. "Such a majestic view out here," Wiseman radioed. Then, at 1:56 p.m. Eastern, Orion crossed the lunar limb. What came next is what this video is really about. In Mission Control, every screen simultaneously displayed loss of signal. Controllers set down their headsets. Flight Director Zebulon Scoville had one task: wait. Inside the spacecraft, 4 human beings were cut off from every other human being on Earth. No radio, no telemetry, no signal of any kind. Just 4 people and their spacecraft, moving through the darkness on the far side of a moon that had never faced the home planet. They watched Earth set. The moment Earth dropped below the lunar horizon, the last blue sliver disappearing. They photographed. They documented. They experienced 40 minutes of a silence that only a handful of humans have ever known. In the viewing gallery behind Mission Control, the families of the crew had been given briefing notes to read, something to hold, something to do besides watch the blank screens. The mission clock counted upward. 0:10, 0:20, 0:30, 0:40. They also experienced a total solar eclipse from behind the moon. The sun disappearing behind the lunar edge, the solar corona visible as a perfect ring in the darkness of space, something no human had ever witnessed before. At 2:36 p.m., signal acquired. Christina Koch's voice, "Houston, integrity, comm check." And what came after that transmission matters more than the words themselves. "Houston, integrity, comm check." Christina Koch, calm, clear, controlled. Mission Control, "Loud and clear, Christina." 40 minutes, over. The crew returned immediately to mission operations, documenting, photographing, reporting observations. Professional, focused, efficient. After the flyby, they began their 4-day return journey to Earth. Orion splashed down in the Pacific Ocean on April 10, 2026, recovered by the USS John P. Murtha, all 4 crew members alive and healthy. The mission was, by every measurable standard, a success. At the post-mission press briefing, reporters asked the crew about their experience during the 40-minute blackout. The answers covered the mission broadly: the distance record, the crater naming, the scientific observations, the emotional weight of being that far from Earth. When asked specifically about the blackout, about what happened during those 40 minutes, the answer was, a profound and deeply moving experience that the crew will reflect on for the rest of their lives. Profound, moving, reflective. What was not described, what specifically happened. What was not described, what they heard or saw or experienced beyond the eclipse and the photography. What has not been released, the full audio record from the blackout period. Now, to be clear about something important, NASA does not release all mission data immediately. This is standard. Mission audio and data is processed, reviewed, and released on a schedule. The absence of a full blackout audio release is not, by itself, evidence of anything. But it raises a question, a specific question, a question that has a specific historical context. In 1969, 2 Apollo 10 astronauts went through this exact same blackout. They reported something anomalous. NASA classified it for 39 years, and the question has never been more directly relevant than right now. Apollo 10, May 1969. Thomas Stafford and Gene Cernan behind the moon. Same far side, same isolation, same 40 minutes. They heard something structured, something rhythmic. Cernan described it as outer space-type music. They debated whether to report it. They did report it. NASA classified the transcripts. The audio wasn't released until 2008, 39 years later. NASA's explanation? VHF radio interference between the 2 spacecraft. The timing problem? The sound appeared at the lunar limb and stopped at the lunar limb. Electromagnetic interference doesn't respect geographic boundaries. We still don't have a fully satisfying explanation for what they heard. Now, April 2026, same moon, same far side, same blackout, different crew, different century. We do not know if Artemis II experienced anything anomalous. Let me be precise. We don't know. No one has claimed they did. No one has claimed they didn't. What we know. The question of what happens during lunar blackouts has been relevant for 57 years. What we know. The last time it was answered, it took 39 years. What we know. The Artemis II blackout audio has not been released. Artemis III is planned. 2 astronauts will walk on the moon's south pole. They will face the same blackout, the same far side, the same 40 minutes of silence. Whether what Artemis II experienced during their 40 minutes ever comes out, we don't know. Maybe it will be in the mission data released next year. Maybe in a crew memoir 10 years from now. Maybe in declassified files in 2065. The far side of the moon keeps its timeline, not ours. Wiseman, Glover, Koch, Hansen came home. They broke the record. They named craters. They went further from Earth than any human in history. And for 40 minutes on April 6, 2026, they were completely, utterly, historically alone. What that was like, they'll carry with them for the rest of their lives. Their words, not mine.